Hey everyone, Anthony here, and happy 2025. If you're just joining us for the first time this year, we're starting things off with an interesting release, and this almost feels like maybe almost like a bigger brother to the last camera that we unboxed from Fujifilm. But this new camera comes with a 1/3 inch sensor and a 16mm equivalent lens attached to it, so you can just fit so much more in the frame. I'll show you all about that in a minute. You're also going to want that wider field of view to fit on that much wider, larger Instax Wide film, but I'll show you that what that looks like coming up. Let's dive into the box and I'll tell you more about this interesting looking new Fujifilm Wide Evo camera. So diving into the box here, up top, when you open the box, this is going to be your strap and your USB-C charging cable. The strap on this one is just plain black with the Instax logo printed on there. Not as fancy as the limited edition that we unboxed last year, but that is there for you there. USB-C off to the side here, and here is the camera. So before we get into the camera, check out what is also available for this wide film. And this will also give you a good idea as to the size of the film as well. If you haven't seen the Instax Wide prints, this is the Instax Wide photo album. So this is gonna hold the, 20 prints, and I have some prints that I'll show you in a moment, but I thought this was a kind of cool thing that you could just add on with the purchase of your camera. It's $17.99, and that's in maple syrup coins. If you're interested in something nice to store your prints in, that is an option for you. Back to the camera itself, you got that Instax logo, don't just take, give, and that's what's great about the Instax film. It's actually affordable enough to hand out to your friends or family or strangers. We sell a 2-pack for $29.99 on our website, and that's 20 shots total in the box. Other types of film can run you some serious coin. And keep in mind, this camera is also a printer as well, so check this out. This is the new Instax Wide Evo, and Fujifilm is saying there's some design and styling taken from the GFX. It's got a little bit of heft, but it still feels light, and it is made of that hard plastic, just like the Mini Evo. This one is heavier than the last camera that we unboxed. Makes sense because it's just a larger camera, but it's very similar in terms of the overall quality of materials. I like the way that they do the lens caps here. They have that velvet on the inside, so it has a little bit of resistance when you take the lens cap off. It's not like you're just gonna lose the lens cap easily. That is a nice touch. So there are dials all around the camera for making changes to settings or running through filters and so much more. But there are some top controls that you need to know, and I'll go through it right now. This top button here runs through the different border options that this camera has. And this is unique, and I think this is actually going to be a little bit of a hit. So this camera allows you to apply things like date stamps to the photos, which is very trendy and actually very useful. Next to no cameras right now allow you to put a date stamp on anything anymore. It's kind of weird because, like I said, it was so useful back on, say, film photos. I think a lot of people are going to be adding these borders to their digital photos to make them look more like film. So you could actually apply a film strip border. It's got the holes where you would advance the frame, and you could apply that to the edges of your frame on this Instax camera as well. Kind of cool. I personally like the contact sheet that won the best, or the date stamp. Like I said, that's actually very useful when you're looking back at old photos. So I was holding the camera in my hands for the first time, trying to figure out what button actually allows you to take the picture, and it's actually this front lever right here. This is a little strange in the execution, but you feel the smallest click when you actually take the picture. Not in love with the overall feel of the shutter, but it's fine. After I took about 15 photos, you kind of get used to it. I think a regular shutter button may have been a little bit better, but here's the thing. When you hold the camera in your hand, your finger just rests on that shutter button, and it actually feels really good. Your finger just lays right on that little lever. So I think it makes sense. It's just a little bit, it feels a little strange when you actually take the picture. It's one thing to kind of know, but I mean, the overall feel of the camera, it actually does help by resting that finger on this little lever right here. One button I do love, and this is very unique. So on film cameras, you would normally have this little lever, and it looks like this on the side of this camera here. On a film camera, this would actually pop out and then you'd wind up a roll of film. Same thing is here on the Instax camera, but it's not a useless feature. It's not just there for like retro vibes. It doesn't pop out like a film camera would, but when you press the play button and you're actually looking at a picture that you want to print out, you would wind this here, and you can see on screen it's gradually sending that photo to the printer portion of this camera, and that's how you spit out a wide print. That's a cool feature. It's not just there for aesthetics, and I like that Fujifilm is using film camera features but giving them a new use case within this digital camera. I think this was clever and very well done. So I'll show you one last button that you need to know about, and we'll talk about the internal storage of this camera as well. So the front here, there is a small switch that currently is on wide angle mode. So you're going to see this teal color when in that wide angle mode. This gives you that 16mm full frame field of view. So this lens is actually very wide despite the small sensor size, and taking pictures of people is a little bit wide, but for landscapes or just like general travel photography, this is great. Here's a side-by-side photo of like a normal camera mode on the iPhone 16 versus the wide field of view on the Instax camera. Notice how in the normal mode, you don't see any of the Booster Juice logo here. Looking at the railing as well, like you see a lot more of the railing on the Instax camera. Now, of course, on the ultra wide mode on the iPhone, it's just so much wider. It's almost like a GoPro on the ultra wide field of view on an iPhone. Much wider than the Instax camera, but I thought it'd be useful to know the difference. And I think people are going to be comparing this versus their iPhone because it's semi close to the same sensor size. So if you use the wide field of view, you're getting a 16 megapixel photo. But if you flick this switch downward, now we go from the teal to the black and it says off. You are now in a normal mode, which is a 28mm full frame field of view, but it takes you down to 5 megapixel photos. That's still plenty for printing on an Instax sheet of film. But if you're using a micro SD card in this camera and then using those digital photos, it's just something to kind of consider. You see that drop in resolution. But one thing that is great about the new Instax camera is that you could plug in a micro SD card just like on previous versions, and it also has that internal storage as well. You can store about 45 wide photos internally, so if you run out of film, you don't need to rush out to get some more. You can store some photos on the camera and on that micro SD card. Fujifilm was saying that you can store about 280 wide photos per gigabyte of storage that you have in that micro SD card. So that is a ton of photos that you could save just on a 64 gig card. That's math that is way beyond me. I mentioned that there are borders and things you could apply to the frame to make the photo look a little bit more film-like, but there's also a bunch of lens effects and color filters that you could apply using the two side dials as well. So there's a more red film effect, there's a more blue film effect. There's essentially these filters that you could apply to the photo, and we've seen those in the past before. But one thing that I like is that you could adjust the degree of the lens effect using the aperture ring around the lens. So there's this prism effect that I was trying out, and that's built into the camera, but you could adjust the level of those kind of effects. I wish the colored filter effects were also adjustable, but those are not. The lens effects, those are adjustable, so you can kind of tone those down to your liking. So there's a lot to love here, and that wide angle lens makes this a cool camera to travel with. I love the size of these prints. I love that you can get different borders around your photos. I like that you can apply a date stamp so you know when the photo was taken when you're kind of looking back on those Instax prints. Fujifilm sent me some of the black border Instax film and also the metallic border film. The classic white, I think that's probably going to be the go-to. It's just classic, but I did print off these metallic prints, and these are something that you can kind of have some fun with as well. So it's nice to just have options. The camera's priced at $479.99, that's Canadian, and you can get the travel case for $69.99, so take a look on henrys.com. My name's Anthony, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.